What's up, guys? CM back with another advent calendar video for World of Tanks EU. And so today we have got the Löwe. This is day 2, and the price on this is £29 and 57 pence, down from 34.57, no, 34.83. So just over £5 in terms of discount. When it comes to converting that to euros, it's just under 35 euros that it's priced at just now. And it's not a bad tank, the Löwe. I just don't feel like it's really worth that much. It's always been one of the more expensive heavy tanks, this one. I don't really know why. Is it a decent tank, especially after the buffs that it got a couple of years back? Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's a pretty solid tank. Again, I just don't feel like it's worth the asking price. So what have you got with the Löwe? Again, I'm going to do a quick, short rundown, just going over this over a few minutes. So, armor. First place I'm going to start. It's strong hull down. Your turret is pretty strong. It's hard to pin. Like, there's not really anywhere that's weak. I mean, potentially if someone hits the really flat, like, ring around the gun, or, like, you can see how there's, like, tiny little cheeks here where the gun mantlet doesn't quite cover. Those places are weaker, but it's really down to RNG if people hit those at all, and you have to get really unlucky if they do. Little chin underneath the gun mantlet there is pinnable, but it's not something that people are going to rely on. Your cupola on this, yes, it's a weak spot, but if you're hull down and you're on a ridge line, yeah, no one's hitting that. Not a chance. People basically have to be slightly above you if they want a good chance of hitting that. And that's not going to happen very much because you are a somewhat tall tank. Your upper plate is pretty decent. This is actually pretty much a no-go for most tanks of the same tier. Just some TDs will often go through if they're firing gold, but that's kind of standard for the tier. However, if you're angled a little bit, and especially if you're slightly above someone again, that upper plate is pretty nice. Lower plate is, of course, a gigantic weak spot. Basically, almost everything you meet will go through there with at least one type of shell. Your sides, pretty decent actually, so you can angle this pretty well. I'd say this kind of angle is kind of optimal, and you can side scrape with this thing as well. You don't want to over angle it quite as much for side scraping, and mainly because you can see where the turret ring sticks out right here. That becomes a little bit of a weak spot. So at very close range, if you're side scraping, people will shoot you there and they will pen. So keep that in mind. Especially if you're over angled a bit, that becomes a lot weaker the more you angle. And as far as the turret side, I mean, it's big, flat at the side. So yeah, basically you want to point your turret at anything that's shooting at you if you want it to bounce. And obviously the rear is weak, so we don't really need to talk about that. One interesting point as well, if you happen to be fighting one of these and they are angling like this, if they're side scraping, have a look at that little engine deck bit there that rises up. That is a part that you can exploit if you're at close range and one of these guys is trying to side scrape against you. Tracks on this are gigantic, so if someone is side scraping in this thing, keep in mind that these tracks are massive, so don't try and shoot them in the lower. If someone is side scraping against you, use the turret ring weak spot, use this little weak spot, and you'll be golden. Now the gun on this thing, by the way, really nice gun on the Löwe. I always found that the gun handling on this after the buffs, like again years ago, was pretty decent. Not quite as good as the Tiger 2, and so it takes a little longer to aim in. But you've still got 320 alpha damage. Tiger 2 now has 360, but you do have fantastic pen, fantastic fully aimed accuracy. Pen on AP, if we go into here, the average pen is 234, which is fantastic for a heavy tank of the tier. The average is actually about 220. And the premium pen is 294 with APCR. So you got AP and APCR for your main 2 rounds. Both 320 alpha damage. Uh, Great shell velocity on both, so it shouldn't be too difficult to hit moving targets. Your DPM, however, not so great. So with this, you definitely want to be playing around teammates because your base load reload time is 12 seconds. It's not good for 320 alpha damage. And your HE, by the way, 60 millimeters of pin for 420, so it's not bad. It's actually slightly higher pin than the average 105 mil gun for HE. Not by a lot though. 420 alpha damage for the HE if it pens though, which is not bad. You can kind of like slice through things like scorpions pretty effectively with that. Your mobility is not great. It's not fast. It's not super slow. It's 11 horsepower per ton for the specific power. 35 kilometers an hour top speed. 15 in reverse, which is nice. Does not turn particularly quick, but it's not super slow either. So keep that in mind that faster, more mobile tanks, if you are caught out in the open, they will farm you. If they manage to, especially if they manage to track you. Obviously, no camo because it's a big, chunky, heavy tank. Spotting. Now, this is actually something that the Löwe does pretty well for the tier because it's got 400 meters base view range. So you can get some pretty gnarly view range levels on this tank, depending on your equipment and your crew. When I 3-marked this thing, this is basically the setup I was using for ammo and equipment. And this was, I 3-marked this thing way back in like, it wasn't long after the buff, like some of the buffs actually. So this was like 2017, 2018. Actually, no, it would have been 2017. So, pretty good tank. Just don't get caught out in the open. Hide your lower plate all you can, and you'll be golden. Anyway, guys, nice quick one today. And little more to talk about with this one actually, because it's actually a tank that can somewhat cope with other vehicles that are comparable to it. So it's one of these that's not quite been quite as screwed over by other tanks that have been introduced at the same tier, and which is nice. So if you guys feel like you want a heavy tank that's good for training German heavy tank crews, or you just want a pretty nice credit earner that also happens to be a heavy tank, it's not bad. Just keep in mind, hide that lower plate, stay hull down as much as possible, and be a little cautious when side scraping, and you'll be golden. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. Until tomorrow, peace out.